morning, impact assessments, as well as strategic environmental assessments. I think the panel has already been introduced, but allow me to recognize the presence of Director Banda. Thank you for making it to this discussion. I think perhaps just to aid the discussion before we go into very specific questions related to this session, let me just pose this question specifically to STEMA to briefly explain what an environmental impact assessment is and what a strategic environmental assessment is, so that it provides a bit of clarity of what these processes refer to and how, in terms of policy framework, they are actually supposed to be delivered. Director Banda.
Thank you, Madam Program Coordinator. Good morning, everyone. Your Royal Highnesses, government officials present, the civil society, and other delegates. Allow me just to say on protocol observed. A brief explanation on what the strategic environmental assessment that I'll be calling SEA and the environmental impact assessment that I'll be calling the EIA. So the strategic environmental assessment is an assessment that is done on a policy plan or program that is likely to have an adverse impact on the environment. So when you hear the word policy plan or program, already we are challenged to see that these are processes that are spearheaded or undertaken by the government or any government institution. So in terms of the Environmental Management Act, there is a requirement that before that policy plan or program is adopted by the government, that policy plan or program must go through the strategic environmental assessment so that we are able to identify what the possible impacts are associated with the implementation of that policy. Then the environmental impact assessment is project-based, like I say. So we have the strategic environmental assessment at policy level. Then once the strategic environmental assessment has been adopted, and then a particular individual wants them to set up a specific project. So if I can give an example, a person then wants to set up a service station. So that particular service station will have to go through the environmental impact assessment process. So the EIA is meant basically to assess the impact that will be associated to a particular project. So you then notice that the SEA is more on a broader scale, while the EIA is project-based and then it's at the project level. So in terms of how the two relates to each other, in terms of practicalities and the way the EMA has been structured, the requirement is that firstly, there must be an SEA done. So for example, if you are looking at Lusaka, this I give the example of the service station. What the expectation would be if we're dealing with the service stations is that we should have a strategic environmental assessment that is going to be done on service stations in Lusaka. So that you identify what is the current capacity for Lusaka, where can they sit, how many can be in each area. Once that is approved, then now the individual service stations that will be located in specific areas will then have to go to the EIA. In summary, that's what I said.
Thank you very much. I just realized that when we started the conversation, I didn't allow the full introduction of Director Banda. Director, I think you're the only one that perhaps people may not necessarily know. The other two were introduced early. Please do just share your portfolio with them, and so that the discussants can also, the House can just appreciate who you are and what portfolio you hold within them.
Thank you so much. So my name is Ms. Banda Karen, and I'm the Director, Legal Services and Board Secretary at SEMA. I'm sitting in for my Director General this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So let me come to a more focused question in terms of the role of environmental impact assessment as they relate to mining investments in Zambia. Could you speak to the role that EIA and their procedures play, especially in mining investments? You just gave us an example of clean stations, but zeroing down on the theme of this particular dialogue, let us just have an understanding of how EIAs are delivered for mining projects, basically what the procedure is for those EIAs and whether communities and stakeholders are basically involved, what is required, how is the process done, what is some of the feedback that comes from these sessions. So Director Banda will start with that question, followed by ActionAid, Joshua to also give perspectives from the community side of things. And hereafter, perhaps you could zero in on community experiences where a local civil society organization has been involved and what they feel in terms of procedure is. Is it easy for them to get involved in EIAs?
Thank you so much. So when we talk about environmental impact assessments in the mining sector, so this process is actually guided by the Environmental Management Act, the Environmental Protection and Pollution Control or Environmental Impact Assessment Regulations, and then we also have the mining regulations that is the EIA. So you realize that the starting point is that this person must have gone through the process of obtaining a license from the Ministry of Mines. So in this particular case, I'll start with the exploration license. So this person will go through the process at the Ministry of Mines for them to be allocated an exploration license. But before they can start the actual exploration, the requirement is then that they have to come to ZEMA, where they will do the environmental impact assessment for that proposed exploration activity. So during that exploration, basically, because the EIA looks at identifying the impact that will arise from that activity, and then proposing the mitigation measures that will be implemented during the exploration work. So in that particular case, then they'll have to do the actual EIA study and then submit a report to ZEMA, which that report, once it has been approved, the law requires or mandates us then to send it to appropriate government institutions or other interested in institutions for them to give us their comments on it. And the reason we do that consultative process is because we realize that the Act, first of all, talks about public participation in environmental decision making. So in as much as ZEMA is the regulator, ultimately, before a decision is made, we must get the views of the consensus of the people. So in terms of content of that report, what are the expectations are, we are interested in the type of technology that they'll be using. First of all, we are assessing the area where this project is going to take place, the type of technology that they are going to be using, how are they going to mitigate the impact that will arise from that technology that they are proposing to use. But then at the exploration stage, it's rare that we talk about issues related to resettlement or compensation because most exploration works do not necessarily require people to be moved at that stage. So after the exploration then has been done and an approval has been granted by ZEMA, that approval comes with various conditions that the developer will be required to adhere to. And since we can, the Royal Highnesses in this place, almost every decision letter that is going to be issued has a condition for a developer to first of all seek the consent of the traditional leader in the area where the project is being implemented before they could start. And so the expectation is that if consent has not been granted, then those exploration works cannot or should not proceed until those are satisfied. So once the EIA process is done for exploration, then they can go now on the ground and do their exploration work. Once they do the exploration, they decide that the area is viable and there are minerals in that particular area. They will now have to apply for an actual license now to do mining. So before the license for mining is granted, they have to come back to SEMA, where now they do the environmental impact assessment for mining, depending on whether it's large scale or small scale, and then again the EIA process will start. And once SEMA has granted the approval for them to do mining, then that's when they lodge an application in the Ministry of Mines for them to then be granted the actual as much as possible to take into account the views of the various stakeholders. I don't run out of time, but I can just mention one critical thing in the process. There are times when we receive an objection from our stakeholders, say this, we don't want this project to continue because they've cited various reasons. And we've gotten feedback when SEMA has approved it, then the stakeholders are saying, we say no, but you went ahead and approved. So what happens is that the law has given specific instances when a project or an EIA report can be rejected. And in terms of the law, a report can be rejected if the proponent has not identified any mitigation, or they have not, or they propose mitigation and the mitigation is not sufficient. So in terms of the reasons upon which we can reject, we are tied to what is provided for in the law, because we look at have they identified all the impact, have they proposed mitigation, and is the mitigation sufficient. So it's because of such considerations then that you tend to see as if them might not be listening to the various views that the stakeholders bring on board. Thank you.
Thank you for that response. Before Geoffrey comes in to give us the community angle, I'll just push in a few follow-up questions related to the procedure you have just explained. I think we have seen a situation where mining licenses have been given in protected areas. We have also seen an emerging kind of situation where exploration licenses have been given in national parks. The West Lunga National Park, which is also a national park categorized as one with depleted wildlife, is an example where an exploration license application has been pushed so far. We did have the Lower Zambezi case, and of course we've had other cases where other types of mining activities are proposed along sensitive areas in terms of water resources. From the SEMA perspective, the process explained is very clear. However, practically we see that there are very many challenges that could present problems in protecting key or highly sensitive ecological areas. Could you just perhaps then speak to whether there are certain gaps within the law, or whether in terms of practice, some of these EIAs may not be done thoroughly enough? What would be the justification for doing exploration of mining activities in the Western World, for example? What is the justification for doing mining activities in the Lower Zambezi National Park? What is the justification for doing a large-scale infrastructure program right next to a river that is highly sensitive to that kind of development? Perhaps you could speak to those issues.
Thank you very much. Allow me to place a disclaimer that on the justification of the issuance of mining licenses, the Ministry of Mines is a better place to answer in terms of the considerations that they take into account when issuing the licenses. But in terms of the activities related coming to the mandate of SEMA, one key principle under the Environmental Management Act, we recognize one fundamental principle of environmental management, and that is about the need to strike a balance between environmental protection and economic development. Because we only develop by exploring our exploiting our natural resources. But tied to that is the principle of sustainable use. In as much as we are exploiting our natural resources, this must be done in an environmentally sustainable manner. So the way the Act currently on environmental management is couched is that the fact that a proposed activity is taking place in an environmentally protected area, in a national park, for example, that in itself is not a bar on whether or not that activity should take place. But the fact that it's sitting in the national park qualifies it to go through the EIA. Because if it was not in the national park, it was just in any other area, then the adverse effects might not be, the presumption for adverse effects might not arise. So the issue then that needs to be then assessed critically in the EIA is that this project is being proposed in an environmentally sensitive area. What are the risks that are associated to this, and have these risks been adequately mitigated? So those are the issues that we look at in terms of assessment. And then there have been instances, look at examples you've given, where them are saying, in as much as you are saying this can be mitigated, this can go on, and then the project cannot go on, and then an approval is not granted. So there are those, there's that balance that is tried in terms of mitigation measures and they identify the impact that the project is likely to have on the environment.
Actually,
good morning, everyone. Well, I thank you very much once again for this forum. My name is George from Action Aid. The Environmental Management Act of 2011 has three objectives. Number one is to promote integrated environmental management to protect and conserve the natural resources. Three, promote sustainable management of natural resources. Those paper also talk about the state that every citizen shall take part in promoting and also preventing the misuse of these natural resources, both for the future and also for the present. So this is the law that was put in place to ensure that everyone participates in the management of the natural resources. But currently what we're experiencing is that during these assessments, there is a section of group in society, for example, we talk about women and the young people. They are not consulted. I was keenly following the submission from the Royal Highnesses. Clearly, it shows that they have got an understanding and have got points. But if we are to bring an ordinary woman who is affected as a result of these mining activities, would they be able to understand this technical jargon we're discussing today? Absolutely not. So our appeal, for example, to them is that can you summarize some of this document, for example, to make sure that they are understood by any ordinary Zambian? The decentralization policy clearly states and gives guidelines in terms of the structures which are available there at local level and the spaces which can ensure that everyone participates. The challenge we have in Zambia, if you look at the decentralization policy of 2020, clearly states and that functions resources should be devoted to local level. Why? Because it's easier to manage at that level. It's cost effective. And to ensure that there's inclusivity in terms of decision making structures. At policy level, how many of the women, young people are consulted in their local languages? And these are the people on a daily basis who are affected. This will allow me to say that there's lack of information among the ordinary Zambian, and this has been declared for quite a long time, especially the young people and even the women. For example, let's talk about issues of displacement. We know that mining activities are quite a high risk undertaking, and sometimes they attract displacement. The compensation which are there all nations in consulting. So we find that during their life, it changes to move them from the place where they are inherited for many, many years to take them elsewhere. There's no water, there's no schools, there's no breakfast. And simply because we are taking advantage of these people, because they don't understand this dialogue, this technical language too. Yesterday, someone mentioned about Botswana. Botswana is a role model. On Friday, like tomorrow, most of the people in Botswana are actually going to their villages because it's so developed. If you go to Namibia, at Kachima, they came to Zambia and learned about the disintegration policy. Just go and see Kachima the way it is developed. People from Seychelles, they go there to buy products and stuff like that. It's about action and also involving the functions and the resources to locally so that we can better manage to get the knowledge of our Royal Highness. Young people, they have got the technical know-how and knowledge. So I think for me, the issue of participation in decision making, policy formulation, and also the involvement of these processes is number one on the agenda for action. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sianzala. Someone else?
Thank you very much. I just wanted to make one clarification, not really a clarification in the same, just to add on what the director was saying. Is that the environmental impact assessment function is done by the company that is want to do the environmental project. They hire a consultant to help them do the assessment. So it's not really done by Zema itself. Zema actually just looks at the document and sees if really there are clear or they are applying the guidelines that Zema have. So maybe from the convention that I talk about community experience, I think we can find a lot of more to agree with what my brother is saying, if you look at the EIA report for 19, a document that is 300 or 400 pages. Honestly, I'm thinking how can communities really monitor the obligations that the company has made. So the challenge is that yes, the company could have committed to say this is how we are going to get it done. But the question that somebody can ask is how will communities monitor whether the company is adhering to the when this document is quite too big for them? I've been to some districts whereby we even go to the district office, they don't even have EIAs for the company that are operating. So you imagine if the government office is not even have a copy of that document, what about the community itself? So the process itself, I think, is a very, very good process. I think the consultation is there. But what is important for me is how can you monitor the process in terms of going beyond the consultation process. We have some cases. There's an example of one of our activities where a consultant asks community members whether it's scholar is not a job but it's that's community members whether there's anybody whoever wants to receive some lunch should put up their hand. And everybody puts up their hand. Then they took a picture and they said, well, this question we ask communities whether the one is not to take place or not. And everybody started. And the picture was there showing that everybody had agreed. But the question that was asked was about lunch, not deciding. So what I'm trying to say is that maybe what is important is for traditional leaders, civil society, government departments, work together in terms of having capacity to monitor the mitigation impacts that that project brings. Otherwise, the process itself is a very good initiative, but it's all about enforcement. And the idea of communities having mentors. And I can maybe ask if anyone of our traditional those projects, it's not just about money. The EIS and for any project. Do you even have copies of these EIS for the projects that are happening? And if you have the copies of those projects, what are you doing then? Are you monitoring those projects? Are you ensuring that them are equal, following up with the companies to see whether they are here in the application? So basically, I think that's what I would say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Matawande. Building on that submission, I think the next question perhaps would be, do communities have a very good understanding of projects that are planned in their area so that they are able to structure some kind of engagements around proposed EIAs for these projects? So I think the question there is to try and understand whether communities do have some kind of information around the local plans in their areas, and if these local plans show that there are large-scale developments coming, how is that coordination happening practically? What is the level of capacity building that is also going down to the community level in as far as EIAs are concerned? I think you did submit that sometimes the report is bulky. Mr. Chiazala also spoke to the fact that sometimes it's not a matter of summarizing the report, it's simplicity, and there's a difference. You can summarize a highly technical report and it still remains technical. The question is, do communities understand what the EIA is saying? Even in cases where DEMA gives a decision letter, are communities able to understand what the decision letter is saying? So I think Mr. Chiazala spoke about simplicity. Can we then just zero in on that question, Mr. Matawande? Help us understand whether communities do have an understanding of planned projects and whether they are adequately prepared, trained, and speaking to some aspects that were raised by Mr. Sianzala, Director Banda. The question to you, perhaps to help us discuss, is around simplification of the procedures, the level of awareness that ZEMA is doing, and the level of capacity building that should be done by ZEMA.
Okay. Yeah, it's a very, very good question. And how I wish communities here to speak for themselves as we work with them. And I would say it depends on the kind of community that you're talking about. Sometimes the level of literacy and then able to reach issues and that later that you're talking about, if it's a report, every community is able to understand and follow the issue. But what I've seen of late in Zambia, our communities are very, very as much as. But I think for me, when we talk about community geographical group of they kind of like, for instance, in a mining community, if you are talking about a mining company is going to bring jobs. I mean, the youth, the young people are so excited. They want, of course, the young people want that investment. The elderly people telling you, no, this mining company is going to affect our agricultural, our pastoral places. So the elderly people will say, elderly women equally are looking at the mining investments bringing social facilities such as education, health. So the different demographic groups will have different ideas on how they perceive that investment. So the understanding can be there, it's different in terms of what type of the needs that demographic group have. But I can say that for me, I feel that communities really understand these things, but they need support in terms of how they, if they are rich, for instance, where are they supposed to go? And maybe my sister, for example, we just want to encourage you to open as much to decentralize operation as much as you can. I don't know whether we have the same office in Western Province or in Mapula. Normally, there are these regions that are there, but they are not that decentralized. You wouldn't find the same ideas. I think they have regions how they operate, but I think this office is needed because especially in areas where they find and we also have the mining bureaus number of provinces. But I think we could say that they are not so centralized because of communities. When communities need them to engage them about the ERAs and other issues that arise for them. But all in all, I just want to mention that in Zambia, this issue of English, my brother mentioned, we've taken it for granted. All these not everybody and my brother mentioned that they need to find them, put them in the local language, and maybe we need to do more. For instance, we get consideration on here, when the community that the company has made, put them in local language, communities are able to follow up. It makes sense. Otherwise, yes, the EIA process will just see the excitement when the company does about investment. The moment that is done, no one even talks about it.
Director Barker, you want to? Thank you so much. Probably I could start with the decentralization that my colleague has talked about. I think at this stage and in this era, it cannot be overemphasized that really environmental services need to be decentralized and that the process is actually underway because the Act, for example, in as much as we can't have offices everywhere in the country, the Act allows us to appoint honorary inspectors in each region. Then those honorary inspectors will act as agents of ZEMA where environmental matters are concerned. So there's actually a process that has already started where we tend to engage honorary inspectors and move to centralize our services. And also my colleague here earlier talked about devolution. Currently there's a government policy on devolution that is taking place and the engagement that we've been having with our ministry is actually to devolve certain functions of them to the local authorities because almost every place you go to in Zambia has the local authorities there. So there's that process that is taking place. Coming to the issue of simplicity, again, I couldn't agree more. Because if you look at the current legal structure in terms of EIA, there's an obligation on the developer to say that at the time that they are advertising their projects in the newspapers and placing them in those public places, they must translate them in a language that the local people understand. But then from a regulatory perspective, practice has told us that translating it in a local language itself is not enough. Because, for example, even if you say this mining company is trying to explain that no, in this process we're not going to use mercury, we use cyanide. Even if they tell me cyanide to Buga by language, I'll not be able to understand what the process is about. So now what then ZEMA is pushing for in the revised regulations that we developed is the obligation of the developer not only to put them in the language, but also to present them that people will understand. So that you deal with both the language as well as the mode of delivery so that it comes down to the level of the community so that they are really get what the issues are. Because we've discovered at this point, we all know that this report, other than it being bulky, it's a technical report. We're talking about processes, we're talking about chemistry, we're talking about physics and all those things that we really need to get the local people understand. So in terms of simplicity, we are actually moving towards the mode of delivery in terms of at the point that there's engagement with the local communities so that at least we get to understand.
Thank you very much. I think I could maybe make this submission. Each project has a project cycle. So what is important is at what stage to bring on board the community to start engaging. Are you going to bring them when you start implementation or the moment when you just introduce the idea in the community? Because those are some of the answers we're supposed to be answering and find strategies. So really our key is to see that at the initial stage, even also our key, the Royal Highness is that when these investors come to ensure that in the meeting they put that it is all inclusive, young people, women, men, they are there in the initial discussion. Then there will be this appreciation. I'm sorry to say that if you go in the construction site right now, some sites, some they're written in Chinese, we can read Chinese in our villages. And these are some of the things that we are saying that this becomes already a barrier in terms of understanding what that project is all about. And we always talk about compliance. In Zambia, we're not short of the laws. That's about implementation and also compliance by the end users. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You would like to respond to that? Okay, in a few seconds.
Okay, yes. So in terms of the question, when do you start engaging the local community? So it's like what my brother is saying, it's at the initial stage. Because at the time that the report is coming to ZEMA, the expectation is that we would have already engaged the community. And that report reflects not only the intentions of this particular developer, but also the wishes of the community in terms of how the project is going to be done. But that does not end there, because once the report has been analyzed and we've got comments from the other stakeholders, ZEMA goes back on the ground to do what we call a verification inspection. And sometimes we do hold public meetings. We look at the register that the developer gave us in terms of the people that they consulted, and we have meetings with those people for them to confirm whether really what has been submitted is what the engagement was about. So through such interactions, others do confirm that they were consulted, but others, the example that was given, such issues arise to say, yes, there was a meeting that was held, but what you're telling us is not what was discussed at that meeting. At that point, then we hold the developer accountable for them to be able to do the corrective measures that they do. So there, but I agree that probably there could be some gaps that we may need to work on so that we make the process more effective.
Thank you very much, Hannah. I think one of the things that was raised yesterday by the Royal Highnesses here was that perhaps they are not adequately engaged in some of these processes at the local level. In fact, there were even submissions around consideration, due consideration for how licensing is being done, that consultation should start with them before any formalities can be done. And I noted when you talked about the procedure, the point where an exploration license is being issued, there is some kind of assessment already done at that level. So that would be difficult. But one of the things, again, that came out of the discussion yesterday is that there is a growing trend on water pollution arising from mining activity. So, because generally there are huge impacts around climate, we do know that the issue of water availability is a very, very strong area of interest at the community level. Communities need to have water that is clean and safe for them to drink. Not only do they need this water to drink, they need it for their livelihoods. Animal. We were in Nagoya recently at WWF, and we found that the Nagoya River has actually been dammed upstream by a commercial farmer. And of course, I understand in that catchment, there are actually about 45 dams in the whole Magoye catchment, which is quite an alarming number in terms of damming. But so back to the issue we are discussing, there is a challenge around water availability, water quality, generally for communities, and part of the problem is around pollution. Okay? Pollution, some chemical waste going into the rivers, and many other things going into the rivers. The question perhaps is, how do you evaluate and consider the performance of the assessments of these areas that are done during and after an investment activity has happened? Because when we zero in on an area such as water, we are finding that despite those conditions that you have alluded to that are given to companies, still there is a growing occurrence of pollution with water. And that particular situation needs to be addressed because, in a way, it also infringes on the rights of communities to access clean and safe drinking water. Kindly, as a panel, kindly give us your views on that perspective. We'll start with Mr. Matawande, Mr. Siangaga, and then Director Gamda.
Water is life, the only challenge that we have is the environmental issues. They are scientific. For you to prove that there's been some water pollution, you need to have you have to have a scientific assessment. And what we see is that most of our communities will tell you our water is polluted, but you know, in a layman's language, this is pollution. But what is their proof? What kind of proof do they have that this water is being polluted? We've had instances where communities have complained. We take them and go and do the assessment, they find that that provide water is not polluted. So for me, the issue is that how can communities have the capacity? How can we know communities have the capacity that they are talking pollution, then they have to take it. Not just about seeing that having water ground and water, but you really have to have some scientific information that will describe that water is. So, but the end of looking at everything, I think we really need to work. The response needs to be a multi-dimensional approach where they are communicating. Once, normally this misunderstanding is come because of lack of information. But if we are working together, I think we can really achieve something. I think we did some work with Kakoyo, Korea, engaging Mobile on the Southern mission. And I understand of the past 2 years, they've done quite a lot in terms of reducing that emission out of the engagements that we have. So for me, really, the result of any kind of problem that arises from a community, from a mining intervention, it does require a multi-dimensional intervention where communities sit together with the mining company and line up so that but I cannot run away from the fact that actually mining investments need water. We need a lot of water to mine. So we can't run away from the fact that when a mining investment is undertaken, so how do you balance the whole equation of community access, clean water, at the same time the mining companies are doing that? But I think that may not be really our mandate as here, so that if the company here this afternoon doing the presentation, maybe these are some of the issues that we hear from them on how they protect the water sources in the mining.
Mr. Siangaga, very quickly.
Thank you very much, Sophie. For us, it's actually to talk about 4 pillars used to evaluate how the performance of the is in this case. For example, if pollution continues to happen, it means that the rights of people are not being respected. The infringement of rights. Because people got the right access to clean water. And community members, they are able to tell, for example, the water is no longer tested the way it used to test yesterday. They will start experiencing maybe testing of diarrhea, urinary infection. Then they will go to the clinic. I'll give this example because, for example, we work in a role there. And these are some of the cases. And we go into the clinic and check it. During this period, those are outbreak. Already then you start investigating what is causing this. You find that, like we said, the result of pollution. For example, again, allow me to highlight only the issue of pollution. There's also the issue of harassment, sexual harassment. I read in the newspaper not too long ago how the young people during this COVID were impregnated by some workers who are working in some mining areas in Rufus. All these are some of the issues which we use as the basis to evaluate the performance. The number two pillars is about ecological sustainability, protection of the biosphere for sustainability, for example, in the agriculture sector. Climate change has an impact on the crops which we are growing. Number three is the economic sustainability, inter and intergenerational equity, sustainable resource use at all levels, minimizing waste, pollution, pay principle. Then the last one is about social sustainability. Community needs to be aware about the impact of the project. Any project has got an impact. And therefore, what we always check for is that when we go on it, is there a risk education measures, a risk register that is periodically updated based on the changes in the environment? Is there transparency in the way things are done? Involvement of the community. So really for us, it's a deal. If there's continuation of violation of these issues, then we can assess that the project is not doing well. But if these things are adhered, then we can say that the project probably is performing well. Thank you.
Thank you. I would love to want to talk about the solution in detail. But from a Zema's perspective, solution arising from mining activities in terms of the practicalities on the ground that sometimes it does occur. And where that has occurred, the Act gives us mandate to issue certain enforcement notices. There are companies that will issue orders for them to shut down, for them to do a cleanup until to a certain level and to ensure that the pollution takes remediation that takes place. But also, like my colleague has mentioned, this is an issue that requires collaboration. If I can just give an example of there was an incident in Kalukushi at some point where there was an accident at the site and then it spilled into the stream, the water started turning purple, died and everything. And as Zema moved it, we shut down that facility, told them to clean up. But then the Act also says that that constitutes an offense. And so we commenced proceedings in the subordinate court. That company was prosecuted, they were convicted, and then they were charged 500 kwacha. And so for me, who's coming from Lusaka, first of all, I'm looking at the people to say, you are the people that are in Kalukushi that experienced this issue firsthand. And this case has been proved, and the person has been convicted, and then you charge them 5 kwacha a company? It doesn't make sense. So in our approach, I think this is an issue that requires collaboration from all the stakeholders to ensure that the issue related to pollution arising from the various activities is really adequately dealt with. But I feel like my colleague says, when we're dealing with environmental issues, it's a matter of science. Because if I put juice in here, yes, it's going to be contaminated, but whether or not it's pollution is an issue that needs to be proved. based on research and other scientific undertakings. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Banda. I'll break the protocol of questions for now. I think we basically touched on all the questions that I had to ask. Allow me to invite the Royal Highnesses to 2 questions. I will limit that submission to 2 questions. One thing in the interest of time. Okay, I see 3 hands. I'll take 3 hands. The 3 hands that are. We'll start with Luna there, and then we'll come there and we'll come there. Thank you.
You talked about environmental impact assessment in terms of the initial start of the project. You have not mentioned the maintenance of the destruction that occurs after the destruction. How does the environmental impact assessment help in that area so that the hole or the tunnels that have been produced by the destruction are maintained and that they do not endanger the lives of the people who will remain in that coast down? Thank you.
You will take the second question and the third, and the panel can respond.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to correct the concept. As a person who has come here to represent people, I think it would be very unfortunate for us to run this symposium on the question of lack of time. Because it's likely that we are going to injure a lot of very valuable contributions which are supposed to be representation of the people. So I beg that you give people time. We will reduce on dinner and not reduce on very important discussions like this one in this symposium. I was raising a hand during the time when my beloved DCs were there, because I'm directly affected as a representative of the people. I wanted to make a contribution, but I was denied, and I'm then forced to sneak it through them so that it is heard. Because as a representative, I'm not going to agree to go back with injurious contributions. First of all, what I wanted to say was that most of these things that we are discussing are a matter of education and information levels, which are lacking in most of the chiefdoms. But what I wanted to say about my district commissioners were that they are very, very wonderful district commissioners who are working very well in this Azumbe district. And we wanted to support them. Madam Lea mentioned one important aspect which we still following even the new discussion that's going on. And that one for higher policies coming, down to, you start from there and then you come down. And this is exactly what Zema has also explained. When you find very good PCs who are working like them, the 2 of them, I think we need to applaud them because they are working with the community and they really need to be supported. What they need to do is that government must be able to support them in terms of policy, even when the policy says we should start from there. But if there are good suggestions that should begin from the level of the chiefdom, I think that should be accepted. But that's not being the case. I've tried to write a document on impact, especially with thermal plants. We may be all aware that even in developed countries this time are running away from thermal production of electricity because of the pollutants that are going in the atmosphere. Given the explanations that Zema has been explaining, I just want to read one paragraph. saying as society advances, we are discovering more pollutants that are contributing to negative climate change effects and global warming. Many of these pollutants come from our mining, manufacturing, and power generating industries. And no matter how much they are minimized, there are always going to be some pollutants that will enter our atmosphere, especially with thermal power plants. And this leads me to say the relevant guidelines by itself cannot guarantee optimal living and workplace environment. Unless effective implementation of guidelines by the responsible authorities are properly ensured, the rapid expansion of power generating activities leads to concerns on the health and safety of the people in and around the plants. So my question to Zema, how much are they doing to give the education to the people that are around the manufacturing plants and the thermal plants in terms of understanding the hazards that come with such kind of mining activities, especially when you are taking coal? Already you have mentioned to say there is where you find a license, an exploration license has already been issued by the ministry. And even without the consent of the chief. And so when the exploration license is given, SEMA only comes in for impact assessment to come and talk to people when all documentations, relevant documentations have already been done. How do you reconcile or harmonize the rejections that come if the community feels that this thing comes along with hazards that will affect the environment and the community? These are some of the issues that we want to hear from them, rather than just say the Act has already put in guidelines that should do ABC. But how do you harmonize the objections that come at a time when it is already been given by government? Thank you.
Thank you very much. The third question.
Thank you. My question is, I just wanted to find out from Zema, how long does it take for Zema to issue the certificate of environmental impact assessment in order for an applicant starts executing the project? Having said this, in my Chipno, we have gone into partnership with one Chipno Development Trust, with one of the companies in the UK, where we have gone into silk farming, for which I offloaded 5,000 hectares, and which will create almost 4,000 jobs. And these people you don't know achieve them right now by subject education, because we can't start anyway until Zema gives us a certificate to go ahead. Because we have formed a company called Mupika. It is a company called Mupika. Mupika Sericulture, it's a silk farming. And you know silk farming comes from wind. So it has become difficult for us because we've been waiting. And again, you know, we are in rains. There are some people who have been displaced and they need compensation. And up to this time, nothing is forthcoming from them. But all the processes which we could explain as you've done what you could on the ground. But the bureaucracy, time factor, like one of our moderators there said, you know, project, for those who have done project management, there is almost a beginning time and a start time and end time. So how long does it take for one to issue a certificate? Thank you.
Thank you for those questions. Your Royal Highnesses, can I check if there's a fourth question so that once we respond, we can then open it up to civil society as well to ask their questions? Any additional questions from the Royal Highnesses that we can take? Okay, there being none. Panel, please proceed to respond, starting with Director Brandon. Thank
thank you, Your Royal Highnesses. For some reason, because we're very fine, we're wearing masks, it's difficult to see where these people are following. But from the questions, it's good to know that we are together. So I'll start with the last question. How long does it take for the EIA approval? So because the environmental impact assessments are at two levels. There's the environmental project brief or EPB, which is at a smaller level, and then there's the environmental impact statement, which is at a higher level. So for an EPB, because both processes are dictated by the law. So for an EPB, the law provides for maximum of 45 working days from the time that you pay. So there's a minimum of 30 days, a maximum of 45 working days from the time that you pay. But what delays the process is the processes that are done before you pay. Because first of all, you have to engage a consultant. The consultant has to do the study, prepare the report, they'll submit a draft to ZEMA, ZEMA will review, give it back, depending on how adequately they attend to the comments. So there's that back and forth. And that's where most of the time is lost. But from the time that you actually pay, it's 45 working days for the environmental project script. Then for the higher level, because that one is more consultative, there are specific consultations that we need to do. So for that one, it's 65 working days from the time that you pay. So again, before the payment, there is that back and forth that goes on. So because of that back and forth, probably that's why there is that delay. But it also largely depends on the quality of the consultants that you get. Because we received reports where the consultant will tell you that I have submitted to them, and we report to meetings that them are delayed. And then when we check our records, that report has not been come. So there is that probably needs to be managed in terms of the actual implementation. The second question, how do we reconcile and harmonize the rejection? So the requirement is that even if this mining company has approval from the Ministry of Mines, that approval comes with various conditions and they must satisfy all. So even if they have an approval from the Ministry of Mines and then ZEMA has rejected the project, that project cannot go on. And even if they have approval from the Ministry of Mines, they have an approval from ZEMA, and ZEMA requires them to consult and get consent from the leader before they comment. They can't comment until that consent has been granted. In instances where it has been brought to our attention that this person has moved on the ground and I have not consented, and in that instance, the ZEMA has issued the necessary enforcement action for that project not to proceed. Now the question on what happens afterwards. So the AE is at two phases. There's the EIA that allows you to set up the plan. And then you're supposed to give the lifespan of the project during that EIA. So the understanding is that once the project comes to an end, the person must then also do an EIA for decommissioning. So that then the issues of remediation and restoration come into play. But for most companies have discovered that what actually happens is that they do not decommission. So at the end of that life cycle, then they sell it to another company that then comes and then it continues like that. But to answer the question, there's a requirement for them to also do the EIA for the commission and then for them to do remediation work. Thank you.
I think there was also a question around awareness raising for the projects.
Thank you very much. So the awareness is there in general terms, Your Highness. I would lie if I say that there is specific awareness that is given for purposes of the thermal power plant. But one of the conditions that we give in the approval is that they must, other than getting the EIA, they're supposed to get what we call operational licenses that deal with how they will run this particular technology and which people they will assign. So one of the requirements is that they must have a qualified person and the person is sensitized. So like you have mentioned, the law is there and the conditions are there. The problem issue that you need to interrogate is whether they actually do it on the ground. And so we take that as a recommendation for purposes of our monitoring to ensure that effective education and awareness is given to the people that are actually working on these facilities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I take 3 questions from civil society? There is a hand there from.
My question has not been answered. I raised a concept that when you carry out environmental impact assessment, you make recommendations to mitigate what may arise during the extraction process. And my concern was that what recommendations do you make to ensure that after the extraction has been done, how do you mitigate the destruction, the holes, the tunnels, so that they do not cave in and cause a danger to the inhabitants? That has not been answered.
Please go ahead and answer that. I wasn't sure whether it was covered under decommissioning, but please proceed. I thought it had been. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think it's a very good question. But maybe before the director comes in, I think the recommendations on mitigation are different according to the natural resources you are talking about. For instance, if it's a river that is going to be affected, I think there will be mitigation on how the river sources are going to be protected. If it's a well that is going to be affected, it's different. So each type of issues have got different mitigation measures. But I think for me the key question really is how do we ensure that you can monitor the obligations that the investment has made in terms of mitigation impact that they have made. You cannot have one mitigation measure, it is different according to the impact. But it's a very, very good question because that's where we lose it under. People just end up at they've seen the mitigation, but they will not really follow the mitigation measure. How long are they going to take? So maybe I will follow more answer that question.
Very good. Go ahead and answer it. Perhaps towards the Luna is asking. Maybe when we think of the impacts of mining, let's also think about smaller scales of mining and how those issues are also being addressed. So, for example, sand mining happening around riverbanks, and then they create valleys. How are we then dealing with that? Because here I think we've got a deeper focus on the larger scale mining, but there are also impacts that are coming from other types of mining.
Thank you very much. I get worried when my fellow panelists is asking questions instead of answering. Yes, here are the questions on how do we deal with them. So like my colleague has explained, the type of activity will determine, will inform the type of mitigation that needs to be taken into place. But the general rule, for example, is that there's a requirement that they must ensure, like we are saying, they have dark roads, those streets and everything, that they are buried and then there's vegetation that is undertaken. But again, the practicality of it depends on the type of activity. I can give an example. In Lusaka, we have Tiffany's Canyon along Kakiwa Road, which is
now a Christian area, but I think what has been used are those trenches that were
Yes. So Tiffany's Canyon is an example of a remediation that has taken place because of the type of gullies that were created. Burying them because of the water and everything becomes impossible. So then it's turned into a resort where people can actually go and do recreational activities. But depending on the size and the magnitude, the general requirement is that they must be able to revegetate, meaning that they must bury them and then plant other is that they can plant in their for purposes of ensuring that they are growing. My colleague here talked, I hope now been answered, Your Royal Highness. Okay. My colleague here asked how do we ensure that the conditions are being followed. So I'll speak from ZEMA and then take it up to the broader scale. So for purposes of ZEMA, we do our continuous monitoring of the project, and then we do our random inspections, establish reports. But because we recognize that even as an institution, already we talked about the fact that we're not everywhere. So our eyes are not all over for us to be able to critically monitor this project. Because of that, then we rely on the collaboration that we get from our various stakeholders and the local communities, because we had instances where the local communities come to them and bring certain information to our attention, which we then act upon. So, especially also when we talk about environmental management, let's say when we look at it from a constitutional perspective, it's an obligation of every citizen at the end of the day. So we rely on the collaboration that we get from our various key stakeholders to ensure that all the conditions that we give them are followed during the process of operation. Thank you.
Thank you. There was a hand from Mr. Nguyen. Are you ready to submit the question?
Yes. Just to add on what Zema has explained regarding the question from His Royal Highness, what happens to the destruction of the disturbance that I made? There's another piece of legislation that they are called Environmental Protection Fund. And the EPF provides for management of environmental impacts while you are mining. So under the Mines and Minerals Act, the requirement that every mine in Zambia, from inception, you must every year document the liabilities that you have at the mine site. The very detailed process that identifies all the issues that you post them, and you deposit the fund, the security fund, to Ministry of Mines. So all the mines will be deposit, and depending on how you are performing as a mine, your deposit is split in two components. There's the cash component, which is a cash contribution that goes into Ministry of Mines at 10%, 5%, 10%, or 20% of your total liabilities. That money is held safe by government to be used at the end of the mine life. Equally, you also have to hold a security through the bank. And so, in case you close the mine, the bank is going to provide finance to ensure that those liabilities are closed, including the ones that Royal Highness is talking about. Just an addition, there's already a legal provision for that. And all the mines in Zambia, especially the large scale mines, they follow that provision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Mr. Kula, proceed to ask your question. There are two questions from civil society. I saw a hand there was another hand. Okay, so let me know from Kula.
My contribution was virtually I think it would be important for everybody approach this forum to understand how documents come up and at what level they you know very well at the director that there's consultation and without consultation of yourself needs to take into account where they consult the community or the stakeholders in the particular area. So my question would be at what level, because it is more at what level participate. And also a short question was that is there any reforms in terms of dealing with consultants? You know, like which allows anyone who can fall into not asking the party. Because like I think it's very highly asked that there is this establishment stuff done in the working with a foreign company and they cannot start institution because there is no certification per se. Now that's sort of it looks like it's a delay in terms of the consultant trying to that consultant is taking up time in terms of ensuring that what is the same and does that. So it's any other way of doing that. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'll take Ryan. Ask the question. Please proceed.
I'm happy to hear that there are such arrangements that they have done of as a mining, the environment should be rehabilitated. I just want to say the example of one mining just here. That has been mining for over 100 years. Look at the Chingola gold mining. Who is going to buy it? If there's such mines, why are they not buying those things which are so dangerous? So I just want one example of such mining that was banned because of such fund there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I recognize the presence of the witnesses. I would like to find out from the director, as civil society who have been involved in the processes, we have been demanding for reforms of the EMA, especially the provision in the law that gives power to the minister to nullify a rejection letter. He feels or she feels that the project must go on. I say this because we put out these regulatory institutions to help government, you are technocrats, but to put up a rejection letter, very clear reasons why you have done that, and then the minister rejects or nullifies that and perhaps asks comments the project to go on. So we have been demanding that this provision in the law must go out, because then why do you put up institutions like yours? So how far has this going to them to performing this open restriction?
Thank you very much. May I please request that you keep your submission to the point so that after the get the hand there, and then the hand there by clarence. But Ms. Santana, can I check with you whether there was a hand you wanted to submit something? Okay. Those two can be opposed in the session.
Thank you very much. My question is also to Sema, though I know it's jointly with the Ministry of Mines. As you may be aware, Wafula province has got a lot of issues surrounding the manganese mining sector. But when we go on your website, we don't see any environmental impact assessments for these mines. So whose mandate is it to ensure that the mining companies submit BCIS? Is it the Department of Mines or is it your institution? Because for us, it would be easy to follow up on the commitments these mining companies are making towards the environment if we can see their EIS. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can I proceed? Thank you. I report presence of our witnesses and all distinguished participants. Zema, I'm also on you. Environmental impact assessments. We hold to institution in high esteem because we know that it is the only agency mandated by law to protect our environment. So we expect a lot from you. You are doing good, but we think you can do better than what you are doing for now. Why do I say so? When it comes to environmental impact assessments, we have seen that, like you are explaining, the process, when you're explaining it, looks good, but when it comes to actual implementation, you find that the communities are left out,
And oftentimes, you find that these reports reach the communities even maybe a week before the week is, even before the project is implemented. So my comment to you is that you need to decentralize and also ensure that you hold consultative meetings so that the community people, our royal highnesses and their subjects understand this process, because this process we believe is an information process whereby people need to know which projects they are coming in that area and how they need to benefit. There is nothing, let me define development in my own ways. Leaving a place better than you found it. That's the better selection of development. So if you have an investor coming in a community and let's leave our communities poor, then we are shooting ourselves in the foot.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Muzianga. I think we are bringing the session to a close, so the panelists will now respond, and as they respond, they will wrap up the session.
And thank you so much for all those valuable questions that have come through. I hope I will cover all of them in my responses. At what level do people participate in the process? Unfortunately, the person that asked the question is not around. It's at every level. So the engagement can be done at two stages. So basically, at the point that the developer wants to start the EIA process, the expectation is that they hold a scoping meeting. So at that scoping meeting, they are sitting with the communities, explaining with the communities what is it that they want to do, the extent that they can do it, and getting the communities' views. Once the scoping meeting is done, the developer goes back, they do their EIA, they prepare the report, then they hold what is called a disclosure meeting. At the disclosure meeting, they are coming back to the people saying, we did the scoping, we asked you what your expectations are, this is what you have done, has it satisfied what you told us to do? And if they agree at that point, that's when ZEMA comes in. But even at the point that the document has been submitted to ZEMA, ZEMA still goes back to engage the community for them to be able to confirm whether or not the engagement was done and whether or not the report is a true reflection of the things that were discussed. So it's at that level that the interaction is done. Is it mandatory to engage a consultant? No. The obligation is on the developer, the person that wants to do the project, to do an EIA. But remember, the EIA is a technical document. We are explaining mining processes and what needs to be done. And then there's a requirement, for example, if you're doing it at environmental impact statement level, that you must engage people that are qualified. So you give us a team of experts that will do that at their qualification. So maybe it's because of that requirement that then we see the consultants coming in for them to do the work on behalf of the developer. But we have noted the gaps and the lapses that the consultants are bringing in the EIA process. So in the reform that the proposal that we have in the revised regulation, there's a proposal for them to be able to regulate the consultants, but we need for them to be able to register with them, and then that registration will come with certain obligations. So that should bring sanity in the process. Reforms to take away power of the minister to overturn the decision of them. For those that took part in the process that led to the enactment of the Environmental Management Act, you will remember that the initial proposal was for the creation of the tribunal. That when ZEMA makes a decision, it must go to the tribunal, but that proposal was not adopted. But now we are also currently aware that there is now the Solid Waste Regulation and Management Act, which has been passed, which has now taken out certain functions from ZEMA regarding waste management of general waste. So that has now necessitated an amendment to the EMA. So at this point now, that discussion is then being revived and proposals being made to see how it's going to be taken in as far as that proposal is concerned. There was a question on the environmental impact assessment on our website that they are not there. We apologize that they are not there. we do publish these reports on our sites, but only during that process of consultation, issues to do with the paper and everything else. But after a decision is made, it's taken down from our server. But we have, because when people do write, they'll just send an email or something requesting for a copy of those reports. So we do have them in physical form, and those reports once requested, they can be availed. Decentralization and board consultative meetings. I think the issue of decentralization was discussed that yes, there are plans to decentralize through the devolution plan, but as well as the engagement of honorary inspectors. So the question on an example of a mine that has been rehabilitated. So when I was talking about the decommissioning, one critical thing I mentioned is that most of these mines do not decommission because once it reaches the end of its lifespan, that particular developer puts out, they sell it to somebody else, and then that person continues the process. So in terms of the large scale mining companies that we have, I may not pick one that has actually done rehabilitation, well, because of those taxation activities that interest rates, unless the Ministry of Mines have actual record of a mine that has closed, they have done that. Thank you.
So, Sianza, you're wrapping your final remarks and also Mr. Manawati.
Thank you very much. I think my last submission is just to say that there's need to harmonize customer rules and national rules. Because there are some good practices which are being undertaken by our traditional leaders. And I think if we harmonize, then we'll see, we cannot emphasize on the needs of the participation of everyone in this matters concerning management and protection. And also the issue of awareness. You can only act when you are aware. People need to be informed. Like, you can only use this platform to ensure that the Royal Highnesses, maybe in collaboration with other stakeholders, CSO, saying there is need to have these centers in our community where people can just talk about environmental issues so that you take them to the doorstep so that everyone will be aware of how they impact them and what are some of the economic values they can get from these natural resources, among others. So, and I think I cannot overemphasize really like involvement of these processes in terms of function and resources. For example, if if the mining has completely liabilities, why should the money be coming from Saka when the impact is happening right in the villages? It does not make sense. So it's only economical that the money is utilized in those areas where they're getting the impact. Thank you very much.
Okay, picking up on what my brother just mentioned, I think the issue of the environmental protection fund, love to submit that it will review the registration of the policy that governs this fund. For instance, let me mention that I don't think you can have an environment that has been managed for 100 years. But I think our view is that this environmental protection fund should be used for consistent environmental remediation. I mean, we can't wait until the life of the mine is over after 50 years. Seeing what can follow again. Even if you have money, I don't think you can get well. And similarly, I just want to make this appeal in this forum because then to expedite the process of decentralization of education. I think our districts and communities really need your presence of the officers. It would have been good if we even had extension officers like the way we have agriculture, forestry. Then the other issue is we need to do the harmonization of our laws. It's like our laws don't speak to each other. This one says that, this one says that. For instance, the land the minds of people clearly say if you have the license, you can set time. But the line out says you cannot develop area that you have title. So, for instance, we have a lot of mining companies or a number of investments where once somebody has the license, they'll start the investment, but in fact, they do not, in the other law, do not support that. So, we really need to harmonize the Thank you.
Thank you very much, panelists, for having shared with us your knowledge, your experience, your expertise. Thank you also to this August House for having posed the right questions that helped us to stimulate the discussion that we are having. As we bring this session to a close, a few things perhaps that are worth emphasizing in terms of discussion. It's very clear that mining does have adverse effects on the environment. I think there is no doubt there. In terms of some of the issues that have come out of this session, it's clear that mining itself contributes to land degradation. We heard a lot around displacement, not just for human beings, but also for wild animals, especially where mining is also being done in areas that are ecologically sensitive or in areas where you have the natural habitat for wildlife. There are impacts of mining on our biodiversity, and as you know already, there are significant challenges in terms of biodiversity decline. Yesterday we did hear from Sinazongwe that in Sinazongwe, in fact, there is a problem there around fish, and it's yet to be established what has caused the diminishing of fish in the lake. And so that aspect also was left hanging yesterday. But also just to emphasize that mining activities, they are also a driver for deforestation. And I think there are national statistics that will show a considerable percentage linked to deforestation as a result of mining activities. There are also health challenges that have been noted in many communities. Kampoyo has been one of those communities where significant health challenges were noted by communities. And also the case of Kabwe. Though we have had all these discussions, we haven't zeroed in on very specific examples to say, you know, the impacts of lead mining have continued to happen. More recently, we did see a media report indicating more than 100 children who had unhealthy levels of lead in their blood system years after that mine that activity has been stopped. So in a nutshell, we are saying from this process, the environmental impact assessment are critical tools that can help us to begin to talk more sustainable forms of mining in Zambia that have reduced impacts on our health and also on our natural environment. And I think it's important from this session for the rapporteurs to take the submissions that have been made in terms of enhancement. Allow me at this point to invite Madam Maggie to proceed with the next session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Isabel, for moderating that session. However, before I proceed, I'm just looking at time and the sessions that we still need to do. I have a suggestion that I would like to propose. Our tea break is ready. So I'd love to propose that their Royal Highnesses, they could go into their holding room and have their tea break and refresh. The rest of us, we can grab our tea and come back here so that we proceed with the session. We still have 2 panel discussions that we need to do. And I'm hoping that this would be done within from 12 o'clock and just before 1. that is going to help us to beat time and finish the sessions. I don't know what their Royal Highnesses think about that and other delegates. Is that a proceed? Thank you so much. So, their Royal Highnesses, kindly proceed your holding group. The refreshments are ready. And we request that as soon as you are done, kindly come back and join us. And the rest of